Olá a todos, bem-vindos a mais uma conversa da Look Mag. Hoje tenho o prazer de receber o Steffen dos Obscura. Acabei por lhe confessar aqui um à parte que cá em casa ele foi uma grande ajuda e a música dele para passar a pandemia, sendo que um dos nossos elementos mais jovens da família ouvia ininterruptamente um dos álbuns dos Obscura durante a pandemia de Covid-19. Por isso é uma honra tremenda tê-lo cá nas nossas conversas. First of all, Stefan, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and welcome to our talks.
Thank you very much for the feature. My pleasure talking to you. Thank you for having me.
For those who doesn't know the band, I would like you to briefly remind us how did all started.
Oh, well, we are a band that started in 2002 in southern Germany, close to Munich, in a small city called Landshut. And we released, with the new record, included 7 full-length albums and a live record, some demos, and we are touring since, I don't know, 2006 internationally. So we are around since quite a while. But the enthusiasm from the first days is still present and here.
And why death metal?
Because we grew up with that. So that's the true honest answer. When we've been like 14, 15 around, all of my friends and me, we shared CDs at the time. I know it's outdated, but
No,
at the
it's
time it was
not.
the thing. Yeah, that was before internet times, and every time a friend of us had a new CD, of course, we shared it with the entire crew, and um, most of them listened to more and more extreme music, and we all tried to find the more extreme bands. But at a certain point, I was just attracted by this early wave of prog death metal, if you want to call it like that, with bands like Atheist, Death, Cynic, Pestilence, and at the same time with bands from Scandinavia like Dissection, Children of Bodom, Sacramentum, and a couple of years later, all of us picked up instruments because if you want to listen to music, the next step is quite clear. You pick up an instrument and try to make something on your own. And with Obscura, I founded my first band in 2002 in October, just a couple of months after I picked up a guitar. And I'm still here. So this is still my first band.
2002, the year that the fan that I was telling you about, our son, was born. Everything is connected.
Yeah, you see? And he's still listening to the music.
Yes, and he's still listening to the music. And why the name Obscura?
Well, we started under a different banner called Illegimitation, but the word was so hard to say. We had to change it after a year or two. So Obscura at the time was an album by a French-Canadian band called Gorguts, and it was so out of the box. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that record. It's very unique, it's very hard to listen, but it's very charming at the same time. And since the name is pretty much international in
Yeah.
most languages, I think even in Portuguese, right?
Yes, it's the same. Obscura.
See? Therefore, it's easy to spell, and at the time, nobody else used that name. So we just picked it up. I mean, we've been teenagers. We didn't overthink everything at the time. So we just picked it up, and since then, we are around. And I think it's a very, very international name. So wherever we play, if it's Asia, North America, South America, Europe, people can adapt and just pick it immediately.
And it is a very strong word.
It's a word that's omnipresent, but at the same time you can interpret it from so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
So good decision as a teenager.
Not always when we are teenagers we have good decision, but that was a very nice decision.
We only made good decisions.
You got nominated in 2018 Best Guitarist by the Metal Ejection. Why did you choose the guitar? What do you appreciate so much about this instrument?
To be honest, I don't know why it turned out to be a guitar. When I was a kid, I started to play piano and I was
Mhm.
singing at the age of 9. But maybe because the range of the guitar is pretty similar to a piano, I could find notes and melodies easier on that instrument if I overthink it. But to be honest, there was not a real reason. I just picked up a guitar because it was a guitar. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe my parents at the time didn't like drums, like most of the parents out there,
And the neighbors.
and the neighbors of the neighbors. But in the very end, it was just a natural decision. So it was not. I didn't overthink anything at the time. I just picked up a guitar in March 2002, and a couple of months later, we founded Obscura at the time. So
Mhm. And it was easy for you to develop the way that you wrote your songs and the way that you play your guitar. You know, it's a specific way. When we listen to you when you play, we know that is you. It was hard for you to come to that level.
absolutely. I mean, we started from basically nothing, like all of us, not only me on guitar, also my friends who played drums, bass, and the other guitar, or started to sing in this particular death metal style. So for me, it was absolutely beginner level at the age of 16. Of course, I had this knowledge and a proper pitch from everything I gained as a kid when I went to like a boarding school for musically gifted kids. But starting from guitar, I haven't had a teacher. I had to start somewhere. So we tried to do covers and try to play a couple of songs and trying to hear, notes and trying to listen to songs and figure out how they played it like on the record. That was years before Guitar Pro or any notation software was common in the scene. So it was quite wild, but at the same time you learn so much. And if you are not doing everything like all the others, you when there is no YouTube video to show you how things work, you have to adapt it on your own, and you have to explore it on your own. Sometimes you reinvent the wheel a second time, but sometimes it also leads to you into a more characteristic own expression. So I'm very sure if you have to self-taught yourself playing an instrument, you play it different than somebody who's playing like note by note, like a teacher shows him. So maybe you will develop a different characteristic as a player in that regards. But to be honest, when I was 16, I haven't had a clue about the instrument, and now I'm almost 40. Um, there's still so much left to explore. There's so much to find on an instrument, and that's a learning process that will never end. And that's quite the exciting thing. You
Exactly.
never can say that you know everything about this instrument. There's always something new. If it's the gear, if it's like the playing, if it's the style, if it's a technique or anything, there's so much more to explore. And
That's
therefore,
that's the real magic.
yeah, and that never ends. And if you still enjoy what you're doing, and I do that since so many years, it's just nice to follow that path for probably another 20 years or
and the
longer.
oth- and the other instrument that you have is your voice. It was easy for you to adapt your voice to the way of that metal singing.
To be honest, not at all.
Not
So
at
in the
all.
beginning, it was really, really rough. So I learned singing like
Yeah,
properly a couple
yeah.
of years, but I was a soprano. Yeah,
Really?
I was a soprano in a choir, and
Whoa!
this is far, far, far away from a death metal singer. But a couple of things are pretty much in common. Like, of course, if you have like a inner clock, that helps. If you know how to breath in between lines, if you know how to articulate, that helps a lot. But the expression itself, like this guttural sound, nobody could show us. So my friend, like our bassist who started with singing, and me, we just tried it, and we didn't know what we are doing, but it was exciting at the same time. And over the years, we developed our own style a little bit.
Because it's a very technique way to sing, so you don't hurt your throat.
Yes, that's actually the biggest part. And if you think about you're on stage for 1.5 hours when you do like
Yep.
bigger shows or bigger headlines, and you do that every night, you need a certain consistency, you need a certain stamina and discipline. And if you have zero technique how to sing or develop your voice, you probably lose your voice after a week into a tour.
Yeah.
And I've been close to that in the beginning. So when we did the first tours, when we play like 2 or 3 weeks in a row every
Mm-hmm.
evening, that was really rough, but it's a learning experience.
It's a
And
learning experience.
therefore, you maintain your vocals, you hear a little bit better uh, to your body and figure what works and what doesn't.
Your sound is very technical, so I have to ask you: do you prefer studio or do you prefer stage?
Yeah, that's a good question, and actually that changes. When I'm working for like 3 months in a studio or preparing the studio production, I love to go back on the road. But at the same time, if I'm out there for like we once did a 9 week long run in North America, I definitely would love to see a studio for a week. But in the very end, it needs to be balanced. I like both. I love working in the studio, but at the same time, I love doing like live productions and everything that comes along with traveling, with like preparing gear, with maintaining gear, with getting all the details done on your instrument. It's all part of it.
And are you careful choosing the songs, the right songs for a live concert? It is important for you to choose the ones you know that will work best in that stage.
We try to change the live set list every now and then, and now we have a new album out,
Yep.
and next week we're going to start the tour. I think 3 days before the album drops, so we don't know how the new songs will work in a live setting. And sometimes you're surprised. Sometimes a song you're very sure this will work excellent in a live setting, people are not interested. And sometimes it's exactly the opposite when you deliver a wonderful composition that works excellent in the studio, but it's quite complex. You think it will never work in a live situation, and then it's exactly the opposite. So we are surprised. We definitely always pick up new songs. So when we have a new album to deliver, the set list is always mostly built about the new record. But to be fair, because there are a lot of fans who don't see us every year and support us since many years, we always pick at least one song of each record.
It is
That's fair.
important. Yeah, it is important for you to feel the energy of the audience, to know if the songs are working right and well on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a back and forth between band and audience. And if the audience, I mean, I'm a fan myself. I still visit many shows every
Yeah.
year. And if I see that the band enjoys what they're doing on stage, then I also enjoy like as a fan. And then you pick it up piece by piece. And this is actually the nice feeling about playing live. If you just find the moment where it clicks between audience and the band on stage. That's really um, yeah, unpayable. That's priceless, so to say.
It's like a romance between us and the musicians.
If you want to call it like
Yes, I
that.
do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because the feeling is so good when we interact with the sound that you gave us. It's a romance between, and we came out from the venue like this. So
It's a romance with blast beats and death grunts. Yeah.
why not? It's so good as any other romance.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Obscura new album is called Sonication.
Hmm.
And it will be released on the 7th of February. This album is the first album after COVID, I suppose. I think it
Hmm.
is. Uh, how did the recordings go? Did anything change in your recording method because of the pandemic, because of everything that we went through, or is exactly the same as before?
Mm, we changed it slightly.
Mm-hmm.
So um, in general, I'm a rather optimistic person, and I always try to pick the diamonds of all sides. So, what we did before the pandemic is recording every line in a recording studio with the engineer next to us, which takes a lot of time, and sometimes you're also under pressure because you only have limited time in the studio. During the pandemic, we had to record in different studios, like the drums in Austria, guitars in Germany, the bass in the Netherlands at the time, and then maintain and assemble everything in Sweden in the studio. And for the new album, I picked like the Roisins from all sides. So we recorded drums in a studio in Poland, but for like vocals and acoustic guitars, I was flying to Sweden. So we recorded all the basics, but the human approach where you need like a big room and the certain engineer and producer, like vocals and acoustic guitars, reproduced in Sweden. So it's like half and half, so to say. And I think that feels very, very balanced because you have, on the one hand, all the time you need for, let's say, tracking guitar solos. That's very demanding, and you need to be in the right vibe, and you can't do that like 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
So if you do that at home, but at the same time record vocals with like a big studio room with the right producer who gets the best out of you in a studio, and combine this in the very end, I think this is the best of both worlds, and that works very, very cool. And to be honest, I felt very comfortable with this setup. Probably we are looking into something similar on the next record.
On the next. You are now with Nuclear Blast. Do you think with this album we can say that Obscura is entering a new phase of its existence?
I don't know, to be honest, because on all record deals I ever had with Obscura, with Fulcandra, was it Relapse Records, Napalm, or Nuclear Blast now, we always have artistic freedom. So we always do whatever we want. I'm very glad that we have people in at the labels who help us when we have questions, when we have ideas and we don't know how to approach them. For rather technical questions like vinyl master. Do you know anyone who can do a proper vinyl master? Because we want to do it properly. Then, of course, the label helps you to find the right person. And that's a very nice approach. But everything else is in the hand of us, of the artists and the band. And this is very, very helpful. So for the band, working with Nuclear Blast, now we did one album already with them, the live record, and now the second, it's definitely a step up. Previously, we worked with Relapse Records, who did a splendid job to help us with those first 4 albums, or 5, including the re-release. But they focused more on North America, a little bit on Europe, but Nuclear Blast is like a global company that those guys in both labels are all enthusiasts. But when we fulfilled our deal with Relapse Records, we looked out who is interested in working with us. And since Obscura became over the years like a international touring act that is not only playing in Germany or around, we are playing worldwide. We also need a company that helps us like putting the album out worldwide.
Of course.
And therefore, Nuclear Blast was a very, very good decision. So they support us wherever possible, and I'm very, very happy to work with those guys. At the same time, I'm very grateful for everybody at Relapse who helped us in the first 15 years or 10 years, depending how long it was. So it's just a natural evolution. And you have to be grateful for all the people who help you along the way.
Nuclear is like an octopus that goes a little bit all over the world.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, independent metal label these days. And they have a wide range of artists. Yes, I think we are more on the extreme end, but if you see that the label just signed bands like Marilyn Manson or Sabaton and I don't know, In Flames, it's like a wide range of music, but they always, that's at least my impression, they always try to pick the best artists in every field. So, and if you talk to anyone working there, they're all metalheads on their own. So it's not like you have people in suits who just look at numbers. It's part of it, but in the very end, they're all music fans and enthusiasts, and that's what you feel and realize every day.
Hmm. Would you say that the sound of this album is, how do you say, a little more authentic uh, and not as polished as the previous ones?
It's definitely a different approach how we produce the record.
Mm-hmm.
And while the previous album was very aggressive, like straight in your face,
Yep.
it was also produced very sharp. So it was like one guitar left, one guitar right, a um, lot of demanding guitar work on it.
Mm-hmm.
The new album had a different approach because it's built like a wall of sound. So it's many, many, many layers, and that somehow comes across a little bit like laid back. It's more like a journey. It's a different approach, a different vibe, a different pace. So it's still the same sound, like the basically signature sound we established over the last I don't know how many years, but it feels a little bit different. And I like and love this authentic attitude. It sounds like a real band. It sounds like a real performance, not over edited, not polished to the max, not everything put to the grid in the studio. And I like to pick up the best of both worlds and balance out something new. It's a little bit strange because in this genre, a lot of people put us like tech dev or prog dev. Everything needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be like on the grid and no edges, no characters. At times, I love to do things a little bit different, and I love this attitude. There are some edges. There are some I don't know. There's a certain roughness that comes across that makes everything feeling a little bit more human.
Human. Yeah. Yeah. It is important for you, that human factor.
Yeah, these days much more than back in when we started. When we started, let's say like the first two, three albums, we always try to make everything as perfect as possible. But if you reflect on that, how much music is that? If you record note by note apart, you have an issue later on playing live. Then I rather want to see like an authentic band performing in a studio. Of course it's produced, but it's much more closer to a live
Mm.
performance than anything that's almost like a computer game. It's that sounds like very extreme contrasts, but in the very end you can combine it, and I
Yes.
rather go this way, you know.
And the voices, the vocals, they sound different on this record too. What changed and why did it change? Also, the human factor?
Yes and no. So my approach as a singer within the limited way of a death metal band is always to change a little bit on every album, and on a new one I think we delivered more of the low end, like those deep guttural vocals. But what makes a big difference is the use of the vocoder section. So
Mm-hmm.
when we started with that, it was like a homage to Cynic, for example. It sounded like those 80s robotic voices. But over all the years until now, I found somehow a different way to use this vocoder sound. So now it's more, I can use it somewhere depending on how I shift it between an orchestra, between a space choir, between clean vocals and this robotic vocals. And within this new album, there are many, many different layers of different sounds. A song like Stardust or the title track, a Sonication in the
Sonication.
very end. If you listen with proper headphones, you discover so many different vibes. And compared or being a death metal band, I think this is a very, very bright palette of different sounds we can differ. And that makes everything much more melodic. Because with all those extra melodic lines within the vocals, on top of the guitar work or the bass work, it's more digestible. It's a different flow, and I liked it a lot. I really enjoyed working on those vocal arrangements for that record.
Someday you have to be a soprano in.
Again,
Why not make a version, a cover of Obscura, but sing as a soprano?
uh, not sure if that's a good idea yet.
It's just an idea, just an idea. Regarding the lyrics, Stefan, how did they evolve and grow on this album?
Mm, actually, the vocals are part of that free album concept. The first one, Valediction, a couple of years ago, that dealt mostly with like farewells from different perspectives. But the new one is more an introverted, melancholic record. So with I always try to see the big picture along with the album production, which went much more human. The artworks that went from very science fiction style into something more you can touch, more something authentic with the oil painted covers of Eliran Kantor. Also, the lyrics differed a little bit. It's the same structure. It's still the same phonetic way of putting out lyrics, but I think it dismantled a little bit more and showcased more personal parts.
Mhm.
So I'm not a native speaker, as you figured, but the more confident I feel with the English language, the more I can work on small little details and underline a couple of lines that are um, that have a little bit bigger value, like a personal value. And Sonication definitely became a very personal album with songs like Stardust or the title track that tell a lot. So if you know me very well, I think people would understand the topic around it. But I think it goes along very well with the whole evolution of the band. As I mentioned, it's more authentic, it's more direct, it's more pure, it's less abstract, but within the big picture as well. And everything is a little bit more fragile at the same time. But I'm almost 40. I don't have anything to hide or anything to fear. I put out whatever I want,
Of course.
you know. And back when you are in your early 20s, you ask yourself 20 times, "Oh God, is this correct for the scene? What would people think?" And these days, to be honest, I'm doing this since so many years. I don't care what people think. I just put it out, and I'm very happy how this album turned out.
You made reference to Stardust and Sonication. Do you say that those songs, those two songs, are the most personal lyrics of the whole album?
I would say so, yeah.
And it was difficult for you to put in words, to write your inner you in those two musics?
And it was more what means problematic. It was like a bigger task to
Mm,
put the message into like a rap. Not everybody can dismantle within a second.
yep.
So it's more like showing a little bit, but not everything at the same time. So that was the big task because if you write directly, it would be too easy.
Mm.
So things need to be balanced out. So piece by piece.
Do you like the word balance? Are you a balanced man?
I have the aim to be balanced out every day and every hour. Do I use the word balance a lot?
Yes, you do.
Ah,
But that's nice. That's nice because we can see the way the person is. And I think you are a very balanced guy. So,
I'm laid back, you know.
laid
Um,
back, yeah.
there's a problem for every solution, as we say in Germany. But
In
at the same
Portugal,
time,
too.
sorry?
In Portugal, too.
Ah, yeah, you see. So again, the more confident and the more experience you have, not only in music but also in life, the more relaxed you are. And Germans are not very famous for being relaxed, but I do my best to change that.
And you are going very well. You are bringing the Silver Linings Tour to our country on February. This is not your first time in Portugal. What do you think about the Portuguese crowd and the Portuguese fans?
They are very loud. I remember that. To be honest, we don't play that often in Portugal,
No, no.
and I think the very first time we went over, That was in Lisbon in 2010 or 11. I think 11 with Hate Eternal. And I remembered it very well. And somehow the concert venue shut down or had to shut down. And yeah, people are spontaneous and kept it cool. They just moved the show somewhere to another part of the city. And we thought, oh God, nobody will show up. It's going to be a disaster. It was a very small, almost like a, I wouldn't call it a bar. It was like a mix of a concert hall and a bar, like a small club. And the roof was flying away because people have been loud and stage diving. And it was absolutely ridiculous. It was completely different than what we expected. And that's something I always keep in mind
You
when
know,
I'm Lisbon.
Portuguese are not balanced.
They're loud.
They are loud. We usually say that Spanish are louder than us, but I think that's because we never listen to ourselves because we are very loud. And
No.
you will be playing on the 10th of February in one of our best venues that we have here in Lisbon. What can we expect from this concert, Stefan?
Well, we built a new stage production. We built, of course, also a new set list because the new album will be out. So there will be a lot of surprises on the set list, and I hope people will enjoy it and be as loud as usual. We didn't bring pyros, just to make sure. Now, we have some gems on the live production, and actually, the next days, especially next weekend, we have a pre-production with everything, like the whole band and crew. So everybody's flying over, and we are preparing the live shows, so everything should go smooth. And to be honest, I can't wait. On Tuesday, we have the first show. We're starting in Germany, so it makes sense, not so far away, and then we hop over. And the fun part is every day it's getting a little bit warmer and people smile a little bit more.
Yeah, that's
Until we are over
wonderful.
there.
I would like to make you a challenge. Speak to our audience and tell them why they should go to the show.
My Portuguese is very limited, so I keep it in English if you don't mind.
Yes, of
No.
course.
It would be a pleasure seeing all of you at the show because we barely make it over to Portugal. It's always hard to come over. It's a long journey, but at the same time, every time we played there, it was absolutely a festival and a joy to play for everyone. It doesn't matter which other bands we had on the bill, which billing it was. People have been just welcoming us. The hospitality was splendid every time, even back then at the small bar venue. That's something, those small details people keep in mind. And it would be a pleasure to have like a big party with everyone and just, well, celebrate death metal with two excellent support bands in Skeletal Remains from the United States and our friends from Gorod from France. Will be a cool night, so come over, don't miss the show, and well, see you in Lisbon.
I'll be there. So, everybody, please come and let's have a crazy, crazy night with Obscura and their friends. Stefan, thank you so, so much. It was a huge pleasure to have you here with us because we are fans, because you help us during a troubled time in the world and in our life during the pandemic. So, I have to say thank you for everything and I hope to see you in Lisbon with a wonderful show and a big smile on your face.
I'm doing my best. Thank you very much. It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
talking to you,
Thank you so much.
and thank you for the nice chat. And well, see you in around 2 weeks, right?
Right? Absolutely. Bye, Stefan.
Lovely. Ciao, ciao.